Good morning, I'm Remo, and this is the Daily Signal for July 14th, 2025. Breaking overnight and developing right now, we've got 10 critical stories that will impact your world today. Here are today's top 10 stories. Israeli forces admit deadly error, children killed while collecting water in Gaza. Nigeria mourns former President Muhammadu Buhari dead at 82 markets in freefall. Dow futures crater 200 points after Trump hits Mexico and EU with crushing 30-cent tariffs. Boeing gets safety clearance from FAA after fatal Air India crash raised fuel system concerns. Macron sounds the alarm. Europe faces its greatest threats since World War II. Ukraine strikes back, Secret Service kills Russian agents behind assassination of intelligence canal. Kim Jong doubles down, pledges full support for Russia's Ukraine war effort during Lavrov visit. African strongman refuses to quit. Cameroon's 92-year-old president seeks unprecedented 8th term. Netanyahu claims breakthrough, says hostage deal within reach, while Iran faces deep trouble. South African political earthquake, Ramaphosa suspends police minister over serious allegations. Now let's dive into each story. Breaking from Gaza, the Israeli Defense Forces have admitted what they're calling a tragic error that killed children who were simply collecting water. The IDF released a statement acknowledging the strike was unintentional, but here's what they're not saying: exactly how many children died and why a water collection site became a target in the first place. This incident comes as international pressure mounts on Israel over civilian casualties. The children were reportedly gathering water during a brief ceasefire when the strike occurred. The IDF's admission of error is significant because it rarely acknowledges mistakes so quickly after an incident. Why this matters to you? This tragedy will likely reignite international criticism of Israel's military operations and could impact ongoing diplomatic efforts to establish lasting ceasefires in Gaza. Nigeria has lost one of its most influential political figures. Former President Muhammadu Buhari died at age 82, ending a decades-long career that shaped modern Nigeria. Buhari served as both military leader and democratically elected president, known for his anti-corruption campaigns and economic policies. His death creates a massive political vacuum in Africa's most populous nation. Buhari was still actively involved in politics, and his Islamic fundamentalist party will now scramble to find new leadership. Here's what's critical. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy and most populous country. Political instability there affects the entire continent, oil markets, and global security efforts against terrorism in West Africa. Markets are in panic mode this morning. Dow futures crashed nearly 200 points after former President Trump announced devastating 30% tariffs on Mexico and the European Union. This isn't just campaign rhetoric. These are actual policy moves that will hit your wallet immediately. The tariffs target everything from Mexican agricultural products to European luxury goods and automotive parts. Consumer prices will spike within weeks. European leaders are already threatening retaliation, which could spark a full-scale trade war. Remember this number, 30%. That's how much more expensive affected goods will become. Your morning coffee, car repairs, and clothing costs are about to jump. The immediate market reaction tells you everything. Investors are terrified of what comes next. The FAA just gave Boeing a critical safety clearance for its fuel switch systems, but this decision comes after a fatal Air India crash that killed everyone on board. The crash raised serious questions about Boeing's fuel management systems, yet the FAA is declaring them safe. Here's the concerning detail. The investigation isn't complete, but the FAA is rushing to reassure airlines and passengers. Boeing's stock jumped on the news, but families of crash victims are demanding answers. Why you should care. If you fly commercially, you're likely flying on Boeing aircraft. The FAA's quick clearance either means the systems are truly safe or they're prioritizing industry confidence over thorough investigation. French President Emmanuel Macron just issued the most alarming warning from a European leader in decades. He's declaring that Europe faces its greatest threat since World War II. This isn't diplomatic hyperbole. Macron is preparing Europe for potential war. The timing is critical. With Ukraine still fighting Russia, China threatening Taiwan, and North Korea now openly supporting Moscow, Macron sees converging threats that could destroy the European way of life. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. European nations are quietly ramping up military production at discussing mandatory service and preparing civilians for potential conflict. Macron's warning signals that diplomatic solutions are failing and Europe is preparing for the worst. Ukraine's Secret Service just scored a major victory against Russian intelligence. They've killed 2 Russian agents suspected in the assassination of SBU Colonel Ivan Voronich in Kiev. But here's the shocking detail. This happened in broad daylight in the Ukrainian capital. The agents were tracked down and killed when they resisted arrest. Colonel Voronich was involved in Ukraine's most sensitive covert operations and counteroffensives. His assassination was a major blow to Ukrainian intelligence, but Ukraine's swift retaliation sends a clear message. The real story: this intelligence war is escalating dramatically. Both sides are now hunting each other's operatives in capital cities. Meanwhile, Russian drone attacks killed 4 more civilians in Donetsk and Kherson regions overnight. North Korea just made its support for Russia's Ukraine war official. During a high-profile visit by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Kim Jong-un pledged full support for Russia's efforts to resolve the Ukraine conflict. This isn't just diplomatic theater. North Korea has already supplied Russia with artillery shells and missiles. Now they're openly declaring their alliance against the West. Kim sees opportunity in global chaos and is betting on Russia's victory. The implications are massive. North Korea's involvement brings nuclear threats directly into the Ukraine conflict. This alliance also strengthens both countries against Western sanctions and isolation. One of Africa's longest ruling leaders is refusing to step down. Cameroon's 92-year-old president is seeking an unprecedented 8th term in office, despite serious health rumors and mounting political challenges. Here's what's disturbing. He's been in power for over 4 decades, and his health is reportedly failing. Yet he's clinging to power while his country faces economic collapse and regional instability. This matters globally because Cameroon is a key ally in fighting terrorism in Central Africa. Political instability there affects regional security and could create another refugee crisis. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just made a bold prediction. He's confident a hostage deal can be reached soon. But he also declared that Iran is in deep trouble. These aren't separate statements, they're connected. Netanyahu believes Iran's weakened position will force them to pressure Hamas and Hezbollah to release hostages. Iran is facing internal protests, economic collapse, and military pressures on multiple fronts. The critical detail: Netanyahu's confidence suggests Israel knows something we don't about Iran's situation. This could signal either a breakthrough in negotiations or preparation for military action against Iran. South Africa is facing a major political earthquake. President Cyril Ramaphosa just suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu over serious but undisclosed allegations. This suspension comes at a critical time when South Africa is struggling with massive crime rates and political instability. The timing is suspicious. Ramaphosa is facing his own corruption investigations, and now he's suspending a key ally. This suggests either genuine reform efforts or political maneuvering to save his own position. Why this matters: South Africa is the continent's economic powerhouse. Political instability there affects the entire southern African region and global markets, especially gold and mineral exports. Looking at today's stories, 3 critical patterns emerge that will shape your world. First, democratic institutions are under unprecedented pressure. From Cameroon's 92-year-old refusing to step down to South Africa's political crisis, traditional governance is failing globally. Second, we're witnessing the formation of a new axis of authoritarian powers. North Korea's open support for Russia, combined with Iran's involvement, creates a dangerous coalition against Western interests. Third, economic warfare is replacing traditional diplomacy. Trump's massive tariffs, combined with ongoing sanctions and trade disputes, signal that economic weapons are now the primary tools of international conflict. Here's what this means for you. Expect higher prices, increased global instability, and the gradual breakdown of the international order that's maintained peace for decades. The most critical development? Macron's World War II warning isn't hyperbole, it's preparation. European leaders see converging threats that could fundamentally change our world. Stay informed, stay prepared, and remember, in times like these, knowledge is your most valuable asset. This has been the Daily Signal. I'm Remo. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you tomorrow.